All right, so we are recording. So for the folks that are here, while we're just giving everybody an opportunity to come in, I just want to introduce myself. My name is William Lanston. I am the program coordinator for the UTSA Veteran and Military Affairs Office, and I also run the MAC, which is the Military Affiliated Collaborative, which is the organization of our office that does all of our programming events and pretty much work for you. We try to work as your voice as students to the university to affect policy and programming. And today, Ms. Heather is with us from the Tomas Rivera Center. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's really good to start another semester, especially chance to see students both virtually and hopefully on campus here soon. So I am Heather Fraser. I'm one of the academic success coaches at UTSA. I'm currently the interim associate director for academic coaching in the student success program. So really excited to be here to share some strategies with you. Our goal this morning is to be really tactical and strategic with you and sharing these strategies, giving you a chance to put them into practice. And then big goal for us is just you'll take away some tools and resources that you can use as you go throughout this semester and the following semesters. And I also want to introduce Isabel Cavazos. She's new to our program, so I'll let her tell you just a little bit about herself.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm actually very, very new to the program, so I'm happy to get the chance to meet with you all today. I have just moved here from Florida, and so I'm excited to kind of get to know UTSA and get to know all of you. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
All right, so I want to take one other opportunity to just let folks know that we are open. The Center for Military Affiliated Students is open. We're going to be coming back to campus real soon, which is why we're doing this. Heather's going to put out some great information to help our students as they're transitioning back. But we are here on campus 8 to 5, Monday through Friday in the JPL. So if you need anything, we are here to support you. And so at this time, Heather, if you'd like to begin.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I will share my screen. And while I'm getting that set up, also academic coaching currently, primarily we are offering services virtually. So we'll talk a little bit about the academic coaching service and workshops that we have. However, we are on campus. And so if you're interested in academic coaching and you would prefer to sit down face-to-face with someone, we have that availability as well. And we'll I think at this point we are definitely, ready to really be flexible and adaptive to the needs of students, whether that's in person or online. So, okay, let me go ahead and minimize this. I will do my best to keep track of the chat. Isabel, I might ask you to help me with that. If you have questions or comments, feel free to use the chat for that, but also feel free to just unmute your mic and let us hear from you. So we're going to talk briefly today about jump starting your semester. Just again, some strategic tips for really it's going to be about time management, right? And how to get a hold of some habits and some routines and some tools so that you can stay on top of your time so that you can meet the deadlines that are coming. And in particular, in this kind of hybrid environment that we're in, where some classes might be virtual, some might be in person, it's really going to be important to start to identify what strategies that work best for you and start to incorporate those as soon as possible in the semester. Let me take a minute for those of you who are here with us live to ask you to sign in. If you'll just put your ABC123 in the chat for us, we do ask students to do that so we have a record of how many we reached with these workshops. And that lets our upper administration know that we are doing that important work and sharing strategies with students. So if you'll take a second to do that, I appreciate that. And then today we're going to review some of the benefits of time management. Definitely would like for this to be a dialogue as well. So again, for those of you who are with us, feel free to share your thoughts and comments as we talk about time management. Then we're going to talk about some strategies and specific tools to help you plan your time. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about procrastination, because that is often a topic that comes up when we talk about time management. You know, why do I put things off to the last minute? How can I avoid doing that? So we'll address that a little bit as well. And then at the very end, we'll talk a little bit more about the services that we do offer for you as UTSA students. But first, before we get started, if you can see the images on the screen, take a minute to just kind of look at these, and again, in the chat or unmute your mic, tell me which one of those do you identify with the most right now as far as your time management?
Definitely the Dory one.
The Dory one? Yes. Same. Anyone else?
I think I may be the bottom left, but I can't see what the bottom of the panda says.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it says due tomorrow? Due tomorrow, right? So, and that's okay, yeah. Right? It's okay. I think we've all been there. So, okay, awesome, awesome. I know, I would aspire to be like Monica from Friends. Is there a deadline? I already did it. But, reality just sometimes gets in the way of those high expectations we have of ourselves. So yeah, there's a lot of different situations that we find ourselves in when it comes to planning, time management, meeting deadlines. And the idea here is not to make you feel one way or the other about your current strategies, your current approach. It's just to make sure that we introduce you to some strategies that might help you develop in those areas that you want or need to develop. Let's talk for just a minute about time management. I'm just going to check the chat real quick to make sure I haven't. Well, you're funny. I definitely identify with the panda on so many levels. But let's talk for a minute about time management. As you can see on the screen, there are benefits to managing your time, not just with school, but in particular, if you are a college student and you have a life outside of college, which I think applies to all of you here, there's some benefits to learning some ways that work for you in terms of managing your time. Give me some feedback though. What are some strategies you're already using? What's working for you? What are some areas you'd like to develop in?
I use a planner, and every Sunday night I kind of sit down and I look at my various syllabuses or syllabi and plan out what I need to do each day that week in order to get it done. And I put hard deadlines and I highlight them, and I'm OCD.
It works in your favor in this case, right? That's awesome. Yeah, those are some really good strategies.
That's something I took away from the last time we did one of these, Heather, as I started making sure that I was updating my calendar regularly for due dates and when I need to start or begin projects. And then every Sunday evening, I review my calendar for the week. And that way it keeps me in track and I have a mental note of what I need to work on. And I took that away from the last time we did one of these events.
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. Glad.
And luckily for me, my instructor is like, I guess I'd originally signed up for all online classes. So they're putting everything on the calendar that's in Blackboard. So I haven't had to manually hand jam all that stuff myself into my own calendar. Mm-hmm. But yeah, before that, pretty much just after my kids went to bed at night, usually about 9-10 o'clock, then I would end up starting to do homework. So I'll stay up till 2 in the morning, which I actually do right now. So, and then wake up to work at 6.
Wow.
If you're just joining us, could you go ahead and put your ABC 1, 2, 3 in the chat so we know who you are and we can justify our existence with our superiors?
Thank you. Yes, I think we all reach a point where we can identify strategies and tools that work well for us. But I think the thing about time management really too is to really stay well versed in it. It's about staying open to new strategies and also being able to recognize when maybe something you've been using isn't working anymore. Maybe it's time to try something else. Or Ruben, like you were saying, before you used a planner, but now that's kind of all been given to you. and definitely work efficiently, right? Work smarter, not harder. So using the tools that are available to you and exist is a great as well. And underlying the whole thing, though, underlying this entire conversation, I just want to emphasize it's not about looking at time management for what you're doing wrong, right? It's all about having grace with yourself and compassion with yourself and saying, you know what? I know that if I can find some things that work best for me, then I will be more productive and maybe I'll reduce some of the stress in my life. And so that sounds good to me. So that's what I'm going to work toward, right? So yes. Okay, just checking the chat again. Okay, let's move on. It sounds like some of you have already done this, but the first and most important thing that you can do for yourself to start off the semester right is to take a look at that syllabus for each of your classes. And of course, there's a lot of important information in those syllabi. I teach a couple of classes myself, and there's so much information in there that I can't verbally say to students on a weekly basis, right? So making sure that you do take a look at that syllabus, skim toward the most important things. What matters most to you? Is it important that you know how to contact your professor or your instructors? I think that's pretty important. Is it important that you know how many points you need to earn a B or to earn an A? Look for those. But then also in most syllabi, you should have a class schedule that lays out what you'll be covering each week, when assignments are due, when you have exams. So when it comes to time management, that's really important information to know. But also, what are the class policies? Is late work accepted, right? Or do you have to make sure that you communicate with your professor ahead of time if you're going to miss a class or miss a deadline? So just keep in mind that syllabus is also a really important tool for you to use to be successful in your classes. The next thing we're going to look at is this tool here. It's a semester calendar. And if you already have a calendar or some sort of an agenda or planner that you use, that's great. We're not in here to recreate the wheel. But I wanted to share this with you all because it's one of my favorite tools. I still use it for projects and planning, just even within the program. What I like about it is it's your entire semester at a glance, right? So for me, as someone who has always carried around a paper planner, a paper agenda, the nice thing about this is I'm not having to flip through pages to find what's due next month. It's all laid out on one page. That being said, this is that kind of big picture tool. So if you look at time management from a 3-step approach, the first thing you do is kind of zoom out and look at the big picture. So in this case, the entire semester, right? This is not for those little tiny day-to-day planning pieces. It's just for that large, most important, big ticket items, I like to call them. So when do you have exams? When do you have projects due? When are your assignments due? And I always recommend looking through the entire semester all the way to final exam week, if that information is given to you. And sometimes students will say, wow, that's overwhelming because it's a lot. It's 15, 16 weeks of assignments and due dates, but this is only the beginning, right? So you would start here and use this as a reference. It's not even something you would necessarily need to look at every day. But if you have that moment, like a Sunday evening every week where you're like, okay, it's time for me to plan out my week. This is a real quick reference to say, okay, next week I have these things going. So I know it really just informs how you need to spend your time during your week. So that would be the second step. You take a look at this and then break it down week by week, day by day. And we're also going to look at some tools for that as well. Thoughts or comments on this particular tool here, the semester calendar?
No, I kind of like that one. It kind of reminds me of one that they showed in like on how to bullet journal, which I had a chance to do, but this looks like something I should do myself in my bullet journal just to get like a huge overview on what I need for the whole semester. Because every single one of the teachers put out in their calendar what to do already at the beginning of the year. So since I'm not always on Blackboard, this will be something easier for me to reference since I use the same one for work.
Awesome. Yes. Well, the good news is we have this on our website, and I can show you just exactly where to go to download this. And we have a version that's an Excel spreadsheet that you can fill out electronically. You could also, if you prefer to print things out and just kind of have them tangibly, you can do that as well. So yeah. Anybody else?
No, that was going to be my question, is if you had a resource to have one that's pre-made, or should we just do it in Excel, which no, that works.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this is something that we that our program produces every term, every long semester, and even for the summer terms as well. So yeah, I'll definitely share that link with you. And I don't know about you, but when we get into the thick of things in the semester, I'll turn around and I'll just be like, okay, where are we in this? Right now, if you look at Thanksgiving's on there, it's so far away, but before you know it, it'll be the week of Halloween. And then after Halloween, it's like, there goes the semester, right? So this is a great way to just kind of keep track of where you're at in the semester as well. Especially if you're like me and you're just like, okay, what week is it? What day is it? This kind of gives you an idea of, wow, we're already in week 6. That means that I have 2 weeks until that project is due, not 5. That it's great as a reference for that as well. So awesome. Like I said, I will share the link with you before this workshop is over so that you can actually grab one of these and use it if you think that that's going to be a useful tool for you. Okay, let's move on to just an example, just a real simple example of what this might look like. It's a little blurry on there. I apologize for that. But this is an example of someone going through, say they're taking 12 hours. They would go through each class, write down exam dates, projects due, papers due, that sort of thing. Color coding can be really great for a lot of people. It just kind of, all of if it's in blue, it's for this class. If it's in purple, it's for this class. So again, just an example of the types of things you would want to put on there. You could put other events and deadlines. Maybe it's a deadline for applying to grad school, or a deadline for, something that's not necessarily related to class. You could use it for that as well. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm assuming that's a link to where you can find this on the Google Drive. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's move on if I can. There we go. Okay, so I mentioned that semester calendar was kind of that first step of looking at the big picture and then breaking it down. So again, this is just an example of a template that we also have. That's a week at a glance planner. We have a couple of different formats of this type of planner. But then the next thing would be to say, okay, how do I want to spend my time during the week? And the idea here is really just to be intentional. I don't recommend trying to fill every single hour of every day, because that can become really too rigid. And if we're too rigid with ourselves, then we miss a deadline, or something happens and we don't do something on time. That can tend to cause us a little bit of stress, maybe sometimes a lot of stress. So, but the idea is to just, like I said, kind of think ahead, plan ahead, and be intentional with your time. So you're going to want to take a look at something like this and think about those fixed commitments. When are you in class? Do you have any classes on campus, right, where you have to be in person? Write those down. What about, online virtual classes? Obviously, if you meet live for a virtual session, you'll want to put that down. But also think of your asynchronous classes. If you have any kind of work that it has to be done for an online class, you want to carve out some time during the week to just make sure that stays on your radar. I know one of the things that can really be a trap for online classes, at least before we experience this kind of deep dive into all online, is to think that you really don't have to spend a lot of time with those classes, that they'll save you time. But in reality, a lot of times it takes more time if we're not staying on top of it, right? Because we can forget and get behind. So again, just writing down those fixed commitments. If you are working a job, also in addition to class, making sure that you have that schedule blocked off. And then you want to take care of other blocks of time that you should be spending. I always recommend to students, keep track of your sleep schedule. Ideally, when do you want to wake up and start your day? And on the flip side of that, ideally, when do you want to start winding down so you can get some good sleep? You definitely want to make sure that you're saving time for meals and taking breaks, as well as time to study and review and that sort of thing. So again, the idea with this is not to be rigid, but just to kind of give yourself that plan and think to yourself, how do I want my week to go, right? What do I need to work on? And when am I going to spend time working on that? Just to avoid those unpleasant surprises of not planning ahead. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. There we go. Okay, did I skip one? No, I did not. Okay. If you don't leave with any other suggestions from this workshop, I hope you'll leave with this power hour strategy. This is my favorite strategy in the world because I've used it personally for many different things. And it has really saved me and helped me to stay focused and get things done. So just want to talk about the power hour briefly so that you have this kind of also in your toolkit. This is a template. This is just an example. So to explain this particular strategy for chunking your time, we start with a 60-minute block of time, hence the name power hour, of course. However, keep in mind that this is adaptable. And so as I go through the steps, just again, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be this specific set of minutes or time. It's more about the different steps that go into it. So for instance, if we were looking at a 60-minute block of time, the first thing that you want to do is sit down and preview. And this really, again, brings some intentionality to your study time. This is where you say to yourself, okay, this is what I'm working on, right? So you are intentional with what you're going to work on, what your task is going to be, and then you might set a goal. If you have a book to read or an article to read, set a goal for how many pages you want to read. Or if you're doing some practice or some homework, how many problems do you want to do? If you're writing a paper, what's your goal for this? Is it to create an outline, or is it to just get 3 pages of writing done? So that could take anywhere from a minute to 10 minutes. It just depends on what your goal is for this session. But the important thing is that preview. So you sit down, you do the preview, and that sends a cue to your brain that it's time to focus. It's time to concentrate. This is what we're working on. And then next would be just your time on task. And again, here, I always recommend start with maybe 40, 45 minutes, but then find your sweet spot, right? For some people, it's a little bit longer because once they get started on a task, they really want to make sure that they have some time to keep rolling with it. Although for others, sometimes after about 15 or 20 minutes, you find yourself losing track. Maybe you realize I just read that paragraph 3 times and I still couldn't tell you what it said. So, just kind of work with yourself, work with your natural rhythms. And if you find yourself getting distracted after 10, 15, maybe not 10 minutes, but maybe 15, 20 minutes, it's okay to take that cue from your brain and go on to the next step, which is take a break. The important thing here is that you are being intentional with your time. So instead of sitting down and saying, I've got to study for 3 hours, right? And then losing track of time during that 3 hours, or spending so much time sitting studying that you become exhausted, you don't remember what you even read 3 hours ago. You want to be intentional and strategic with this. Give yourself a set end time. I always recommend using a timer. And when that timer goes off, then you get up and you take your break. And the break time is important too, because it should be small. But again, I recommend actually getting up, walking away from the computer, especially in with this virtual environment that we find ourselves in. I know I'm getting stronger and stronger reading glasses as the months go by. We spend so much time in front of the screen. I think it's really important to give your eyes a break from the screen. And that being said, if you're walking away from the computer screen, don't go get on your phone, right? Actually do something that's going to give your eyes a rest. Maybe get up and move your body. It can be, I've gone through this strategy with so many students. It can be getting up and getting a glass of water. I have students who are like, oh, I'll do some push-ups during that time, or I'll do some jumping jacks, just whatever floats your boat to do in that break time. But keep it small so that you don't lose track, and then come back to whatever that task you were working on. And then the last 5 minutes is your review time. And what makes this particular part of the strategy so impactful is you're closing the loop on this entire thing. So you've given your brain a cue that it's time to focus. So your brain's going to focus. You work on the task, right? You do whatever it is you have planned to do. You give your brain a little bit of a break, and then you come back to connect, right? Maybe it's looking back over the reading so that you can summarize. Maybe it's, if you were writing a paper, it's kind of proofreading real quick, but it's going to be some kind of little review that connects the dots and closes the circle, closes the loop on this strategy. And then if you're ready to start a new one, you can start a new one. Or if you have other things to do, because it's a really busy day, but you know that you just carved out a good strategic chunk of time to study. And so now you can go on to do the other things that you need to do, knowing that was really effective time spent. Okay, so I've been talking for quite a bit. I'd like to hear thoughts from anyone else on this power hour strategy. Has anybody used something like this before?
Just to add, I mean, the power hour. Oh, Ruben. Oh, I thought he was. Sorry. No, just to add to the power hour, I think that this is a really good strategy if you're somebody who struggles with procrastination, because sometimes it's just that getting started with the project, even if you're sitting down and doing it for 10 minutes. Well, the 10-minute preview is getting started on the thing that maybe you've been avoiding, or that gives you anxiety, or if it's a big project that you have to break down. So I really think that this power hour is a great tool for that as well.
Yeah, I think what I got to do is I got to focus on the power hour, because I kind of did that last night with my calculus homework, and my power hour turned into a power 3 hours, only because there was like one theorem I could not get. So I was trying to get as much information on it as possible. And then, yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. Things like some subjects like that can take not forever, but can take a long time, right? To work through those problems and get those theories right. But if you've ever thought to yourself, this is just getting harder to wrap my head around, maybe that's a good time to take that little break, right? Clear your head and then come back to it. Absolutely. And I will tell you too, for me, especially in grad school, because I worked full time while I was in grad school. So I didn't have much time during the day. I had to do my studying, my reading at night. And I would get home from a long day of work and I'd be like, I don't want to read for 3 hours, right? And I don't have the energy to do this, but I could do a solid hour today, right? And I would just give myself that power hour. And then over the course of a week, I read 5 hours. That was enough time to get some reading done, but I didn't feel like I had to do it all in one evening. And so, just kind of like Isabel was saying, it helped me to get started on things instead of putting them off and doing everything on the weekend, right? So yeah. Any other thoughts on the power hour?
I think doing something like this for somebody like me provides structure, because I have ADD. and I'm kind of like that dog from Up, where I'll be in something and I'll be like squirrel. But if I know and I have the structure, if I do this for this amount of time, it gives me a chance for my brain to rest, and then I'll focus on something else. And then I'm like, okay, now I need to bring it back because that was my little 5-minute break. So it provides some structure to be able to complete my task that I'm working on.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I like that. And as a reminder too, if you have ADD and you don't have a 45-minute attention span for anything, that's okay, right? You just set that timer for 15 minutes. And again, it's about giving yourself that grace to do what works for you, for sure.
Yeah, I think right now I'm pretty much doing like power 20 minutes throughout every day, because for the second time since COVID started, my husband got deployed.
Oh.
So now I'm like, I'm getting up before 6 and I'm taking the kids. So like while I'm driving, I've got my iPad plugged in and it's reading my textbooks to me, and then, get home and start delving into my classes and whatnot. And then, once they're home, it's my books are reading to me while I'm cooking dinner. And, finally when they're in bed, and then I'm up super late. So my sleep is trash, but power 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to hand it to you. That's a challenging life to live, period. But on top of it, being a college student. So exactly, just do what you can. I think obviously you've got some good strategies in place. But yeah, having a reader read your book to you, doing some sort of audio file, just kind of capturing those times that you are in the car, just doing it where you can, right? Finding ways to fit things in where you can. That's how we get through those challenging times, for sure.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 do not recommend.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on that one. Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can move on. Okay, I would like to give us a chance, give you all, I'm checking my time here. I think we have a chance to do this quick little activity. This is on the screen, you can see this little thing that says weekly schedule. You see some little colorful blocks that are blocked off. Let's, Will, are you still on the Google Drive site where we could pull up one of these and put the link in the chat?
Yes, I am. Yes, ma'am. You want
Okay.
the weekly schedule?
I think the weekly schedule is a good one.
Let's see.
I think. And if not, if we can't do this template, just kind of, if we can't do this one in particular, or you could use the week at a glance, the half hour.
Okay, there we go. Let's see. Glance.
Yeah, I downloaded the half-hour one.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's go ahead and use that one then.
There's also, I think, right beforehand, if you prefer chunking it by hour, that one should be there too.
Yeah. So I'd like to give you, maybe just about 5 or 6 minutes to kind of think about what this would look like for you. Obviously, you don't have to use this template for every week, but just start thinking about those routines that you want to incorporate, those fixed commitments that you have. And again, whether it's an on-campus class or an asynchronous class, think about when you are planning to carve out time for those things and start just filling those in. And like I said, if the download isn't working for you to fill in, maybe even just sketch it out on a piece of paper, but just start working through what it would be like to be really intentional with your time throughout the week. We'll take a few minutes to do that. And one more thing before I quiet myself for a little bit. Also, when you think about your time and being intentional with time, be intentional with breaks as well. If you've got 5 hours one afternoon, try not to just cram 5 hours of studying in there. Think about that power hour. Think about scheduling intentional little breaks throughout the day. Don't forget to plan time for meals. Sometimes we can get so busy that we look around and, I haven't eaten today. How'd that happen? So, and then again, too, with regard to sleep, I'm certainly no expert, and there are times where my sleep schedule's great and times where it's not. And with life, right, we don't always have control over that, but just do your best to think about, what's a good amount of sleep for me? What should I be aiming for every night? And then just try to incorporate that into your routine as well.
Yeah, I definitely need to start scheduling sleep.
A tip for that too is, if there's like a kind of a fixed time that you're able to sleep due to other obligations. I mean, if you have any empty block of time, I there's no shame in scheduling nap breaks, short nap breaks too, to kind of compensate for that sleep.
I agree. No shame in napping at all. And one tip I heard, I think it was actually from, I can't remember who it was, but Will, I think it was from one of these workshops back in the spring. If you find that you have insomnia, if you find that you have trouble with sleeping, a tip that somebody shared was just making sure that you're in bed at the same time every night, regardless of whether you fall asleep or not. Just giving your body that cue at the same time every day that it's time to wind down. And then also waking up at the same time or getting out of bed at the same time every day. Again, easier said than done sometimes, right? But learning to send your brain and body cues when your day should be over and when it should be time to wind down. I set an alarm on my phone at 8:30 every evening to remind me that it's time for my evening ritual. Still trying to figure out what that is, but just that reminder so that I'm not just messing around doing stuff that's not going to help me sleep, like watching Netflix or something like that.
I definitely do the schedule thing where I go to bed at the exact same time every day, whether I fall asleep or not. And it's really been helpful. But one thing I also got in the habit of doing is not taking my phone to bed and like laying there and playing on it or doing something like that before I go to bed, because that stimulates your brain and kind of, it's not really what you're trying to do. So, and I also, one of the other things I did is I put a thing on my phone where it can't send me alerts after a certain time. And so when it's that bedtime until the time I wake up, so I don't have to worry about, text or notifications or anything dinging throughout the night, interrupting my sleep. And that's been a huge help.
Yeah, I was going to say you can set up like the sleep schedule on your phone and it'll alert you to, hey, it's time to start winding down or whatever. But something else, because I know all 4 of my classes, my books are ebooks. So even if, I'm done with dinner, kids are clean, everything's done, let me sit down and, get in some reading, you still have that bright blue light coming at you. So you can actually get non-prescription blue light blocking glasses, and it helps to prevent your circadian rhythm from getting thrown off. So that way, when you are tired and it's time to go to bed, you don't have all of that blue light just filtering in.
Yeah, these glasses that I've got right now, I had to do that. And it helps so much, especially when trying to get to sleep after doing all the books. It's like you said, all my books are ebooks too.
And it'll preserve your eye health.
Oh, and also, what's it called? That there's like I guess a sleep setting on monitors too, or top of your computer, so you can have it do that red shift. I noticed that helped at night, especially for me, like since I'm in an all dark room. And when I finally turned it on, it just like gives it that I guess just like a dusk look or a sunset look. So yeah, it doesn't keep you as awake as long either.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad that you all found those helpful tools, just to prevent overall digital fatigue, right? But also to block that blue light as when we're trying to sleep. So how's it going with the weekly schedule? Have you had a chance to kind of think about how you want to spend your time throughout the week, as much as it's up to you? I know sometimes our schedules are created for us.
Looks like my screen just froze at the wrong time.
Oh.
But
All right.
but yeah, with me, like I'm actually on my lunch hour right now from work, but I usually work from like 7 to 5. So yeah, everything I do is either right before work or right after work or on the weekends. And then of course I've got 4 boys. So after I get out of work, I usually try to do as much stuff with them as possible before I study. But yeah, something like this where I can actually schedule it and add those little blocks of time so that I could work their schedule stuff in, and everything should hopefully help me, because right now I'm just like thinking about everything and not really writing it down as much.
Yeah. Well, great. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I think there is definitely something to writing it down that helps it to become a little bit more concrete in our mind. And last thing I'll say about this too is, don't forget to plan for those times, that downtime with your kids, right? Don't forget to incorporate that into your schedule. So that on one of those particularly busy weeks, at least you can look at this and go, oh yeah, Sunday afternoon, we're going to the movies or we're going to the park. It gives you something to look forward to as well. And of course, it doesn't have to be a whole day event. It can just be those little times here and there. But definitely think about those too, and don't overlook those fun times that help to refresh and replenish your energy, all the energy you're spending on everything else. So, okay, well, with the few minutes that we have left, let's kind of wind down a little bit. Let's see. We did say we were going to touch on procrastination a bit, and Isabel, I think, did a great job of kind of explaining how that power hour can help as well, right? Because if you can convince yourself that you can at least get started on something, that's, kind of a lot of times half the battle. We don't have a lot. I feel like we could talk for an entire workshop, 45, 50 minutes about procrastination, and really do a deep dive, but that's not what we're going to do today. But just think about your own procrastination and try to reflect on, can you identify the reasons that you procrastinate? Because there are so many different reasons that we procrastinate. And let me just tell you, it's not just because you're lazy, right? I think a lot of times we are quick to judge ourselves in that way and say, well, I'm just lazy, so I just put things off to the last minute. But a lot of times it's something a little bit more underlying. Maybe we overestimate the amount of time we have. So we think I don't need to get started because I've got plenty of time. Maybe we underestimate, or maybe that was underestimating, sorry. But there are just different ways that different reasons that we put things off a little bit. Sometimes it's just a matter of prioritizing, right? We have so many things to do that we know we've got to get these things done first. And so it's a natural way to just prioritize things by putting other things off. But where it becomes problematic is if we continually put things off to the last minute, because then it reduces the amount of time that we have to work on that. It can affect our overall product, and it can definitely create more stress, right? So I do want to say too that as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, in my professional experience, there is no real cure to procrastination, right? It's kind of part of the human condition. We just tend to put off things that we don't want to do, or that we think might be too hard or take too long. That's also one of the most underlying reasons behind procrastination that I've heard, is that we just get overwhelmed. This is such a big project. I don't even know where to start. This is so huge. I can't even think about this. So that's where breaking it down using the power hour can help. Some other tips that we have on the screen here is, check that, do some reflection on it, and maybe check your attitude, right? Do you have kind of there's no way I'm going to get this done, so why even start kind of attitude about it? Well, how can you flip that? How can you flip that to say, you know what, I have 30 minutes, I can get started. A lot of times when I'm coaching students on papers, long papers, I'll tell them, just open up a Word document, give it a title, and save it on your computer, and you've just started your paper, right? You haven't done any writing yet, but you have a paper started. So think about ways that you can kind of break it down, and give yourself those little spurts along the way. Create a to-do list, make sure that you know everything that you've got to do, then find a way to prioritize. I touched on that just a minute ago. If you're interested in some ways to prioritize, then definitely listen to how you can schedule an appointment with an academic coach, because we can definitely sit down on an individual basis to talk about more strategies. Find somebody to keep you accountable to your goals, right? Maybe set a deadline for yourself that's ahead of the deadline, so that if you do procrastinate to the last minute, you still have that buffer. Also, thinking about rewarding yourself for getting things done on time, even if it's those small steps along the way. Create some sort of a reward for that, so that you keep that momentum of, hey, I'm accomplishing things. You keep that going. Can't stress enough to show yourself compassion, show yourself some grace as you are doing the absolute best that you can to do these challenging things. And then I want to share my favorite strategy with you. It's eat the frog. Has anybody heard that strange saying before? Eat the frog. Y'all are probably thinking, okay, we thought she was okay, but Heather is actually kind of crazy. No, this comes from a quote by Mark Twain, who it's attributed to him, that he said that every morning when he woke up, he ate a live frog. And that way he knew that that was the worst thing that would happen to him that day. So the idea behind this, how does this relate to time management, to procrastination? That large task, that task that you want to avoid, do that first. Start with that, right? Eat that frog, and then it'll be over and done with. And the rest of your day can go relatively smoothly, I suppose. Because if you've ever thought about it, if you have that task that you are wanting to avoid, it's looming over you as long as you don't get it done, right? And so are you ever able to actually, get rid of it? Are you really avoiding it, or is it just kind of following you around? So anyway, that's the one that I like. It stuck with me a long time ago. There's even a book about time management that's called Eat the Frog. It's really got some great strategies. So again, kind of take some time to reflect on why you might be procrastinating. Talk to an academic coach about some tips to help manage your procrastination so that it doesn't become problematic, and you'll get through it. You'll get through it. Any other thoughts?
Oh, I just wanted to add to that, just some reminders about procrastination too, is that I think it can be very closely tied to perfectionism as well. So if you find yourself thinking like this project needs to be done perfectly, and that is a stressor for you, it can just help to tell yourself, like, it's okay if I just do a pretty okay job, even if it's not a perfect job, when you're working on something that maybe gives you that kind of stress that it needs to be perfect to be done. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, I agree 100% on that. Anyone else? Okay. So we are running out of time. Hopefully we were able to meet our goal of sharing some tips and strategies for time management. Hopefully there were maybe one or two that we talked about today that you're willing to implement and to try. Just remember, it's a process. It's never, in my experience, it's never something that you get right 100% of the time. And that's not the purpose. The purpose is to be intentional, about how you want to spend your time, about how ways that you can be effective so that you feel that you are successful in meeting your academic and personal goals. So let's go on. Come on now. Speaking of, I feel like every time, there we go. Every time my slides change, something happens and doesn't work the next time I try to click the button. Okay, so speaking of resources to help you achieve those academic and personal goals, I definitely recommend that you try meeting with an academic coach. This is a resource that's available to you at UTSA, free of charge. You've already paid for it, just like many of the other campus resources in those wonderful fees that you pay. And so this is available to you on pretty much an unlimited basis as well. We meet with students as often as once a week, especially, as you're developing a system or a plan that works for you. And then a lot of times, weekly or every other week, just to stay accountable to someone for your goals. This is the information that you need to reach us. This little card link here will take you to our resource page. It will take you to the interest form if you are interested in scheduling an appointment with an academic coach. And it'll take you to a list of our workshops, other workshops that we offer. So it's probably the best way to access our resources. And of course, you can email us at academic.coach@utsa.edu. You can call our office at the number you see on the screen. And then of course, like everybody else, we're on social media. So if you want to connect with us there and see what we've got going on, we share strategies and tips and updates on programming that we're offering as well.
Is Lyric one of those folks that's in that section? Because I've been meeting with her like I guess for the last 2 weeks or so.
Lyric, yes. Okay. Yes, she is.
Okay.
Yes, she is. Yeah, she's one of our awesome senior academic peer coaches. So yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you're taking advantage of the service. That's great. So anybody else have any thoughts or comments or questions before we let you go?
I just wanted to add that I think it's important to do as Heather said and make sure you're taking advantage of the resources that are available to you. It don't cost you nothing but time to go see them. Heather and her team has been great, and they've helped many of our military affiliated students over the years, and we've gone to see them be more successful from the resources that they were able to get from Heather and her team. But there's also other resources on campus. There's supplemental instruction, there's tutoring, there is a study space for our military affiliated students on the 3rd floor of the library. Unfortunately, right now it's currently closed off because they're renovating, but we do have a veteran hangout space on the 4th floor of the JPL, and that's JPL 4.03.04. If you take the elevator up to the fourth floor, as soon as you step out, it'll be right there to your left. And so if you do need a quiet place to be able to go to be able to study, that is available to you. But there's just infinite number of resources, and you're more than welcome to stop by our office at any time. Again, my name is William Lanston. I'm the program coordinator for the office, and I am more than happy to point you in the direction of these resources. And if I don't know, I will find them.
Could you give the room number for that?
For sure.
I guess the study and the hangout space again, because I have a big block of time in between my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So
yeah, for sure. So it's JPL 4.03.04. So for those who may not be familiar with the penal system coding that we use on the rooms here at UTSA, the letters are always the building. The first number is the floor, second number is the corridor, third number is the room. But we do have another room, veteran lounge. It's going to be opening up soon. As soon as they're done with the renovations, that'll be available. And as soon as they're done with the renovations, the study space on the 3rd floor of the library will be open. Unfortunately, I don't have that number memorized because we don't control that room. Sorry about that. But if you want to email me, I'll be more than happy to find that information out for you. And I'm going to put my email in the chat.
Yeah, I think the lounge one that they're working on, I think that's actually listed on the veteran website on the.
And I know our current one is, and the other one is literally if you turn right instead of left, it's going to be the first door on the right. Black Rifle is currently renovating that room for us, and as soon as it's done, it'll be available to our students. But the 434 is open. So, and anything that you see that has the camo rowdy head is our brand, it's our office, and that's something we control or at least have a part in. So you won't be able to miss it. It's a big old camo rowdy head on the front door.
Perfect. Thank you.
For sure. That's also where we have our coffee with vets. And since we're talking about strategies for being successful, taking those breaks are also good for your mental health and for being able to stay healthy. And so every second Wednesday of the month we do coffee with vets. Black Rifle donates coffee. I go pick up Duck Donuts and we sit up there for a couple hours. And it's also a good way for you to meet other veterans who may be in the same classes, and so you may be able to form study groups by meeting other students that are taking similar classes as you.
It's one of the things that I love most about UTSA. It's all the resources available. It's really, really great. So yeah, thank you all for your time. Really appreciate your participation in this workshop. And again, I hope we were able to share some strategies for you to put into practice. And I did, there was a QR code on the screen, but I did go ahead and put a link in the chat as well. If you have a minute, we'd appreciate your feedback on this workshop. That link will take you to a brief evaluation. If you have a few minutes to fill that out, we appreciate it. And best of luck to you this semester, and we hope to see you.
And Heather and Isabel, thank y'all for doing this today, and thank you for all the things that you do to support our military affiliated students. We're grateful for everything you do, and we appreciate you.
It's absolutely our pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, all of you.